Hello Timers, Sandra back ending, and it's release day for BT24 Time Strangers. And to celebrate, for our final deck list for the countdown, I decided to go about the same way I did it going into BT23, with another Passing of the Torch deck list. In this case, being the deck that's already made meta rounds already, being the Hudie CS deck. And before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this around to help with the algorithm. Without further ado, let's crack into it. And starting off with the egg deck, we're looking at the BT23 Yokomon as the main egg, since you'll be mostly using this as a form of draw, as most of your lineup is CS trade, thus allowing you to gather resources early on and allow you to chain mid combo, since you'll be getting resources on each swing. And that's it for the egg deck. Now on to rookies, in which case, starting off with the basic CS support, we're looking at a 4-2 split between Hudiemon and Palmon, since these two are going to be your pretty much your loop enablers in this deck, considering that both have the inherent to place the top card of the Digimon as the bottom evolution source for draw 1, which works in tandem with their effects while on board, since going from level 4 back, regressing back to these rookies will then trigger their effect. With Hudiemon obviously being the main tamer chi in this deck, allowing you to establish a CS trait tamer on board while paying their costs while you're sitting at 1 or fewer, and Palmon for utility, being able to gain 1 memory whenever it sees it happen. And then following that up, continuing with the game starter parallels, it's going to be 3 copies of Gatsumon and 1 copy of BT23 Betamon, with Gatsumon being the main searcher of the deck, and pretty much being able to grab anything, allowing you to get double hits, since most of your deck is CS trait, with mostly, with interspersed Hudie traits among them. So you aren't going to have too much of a miss in that department. While Betamon's on play, it allows you to pitch a card from hand in order to recur any CS trait that's seen in trash. With both of these granting the inherent that allows you to spawn out a level 5 or lower Hudie trait from hand, and without paying the cost, then it can't even Digivolve and gets lead at the end of the opponent's turn. Though that lost clause isn't much of a negative to work with, considering what this deck will like to do. And to round off the rookie lineup is the 1 copy of the BT23 Wormmon, giving you an option to go into your boss Digimon at reduced cost, following conditions are met, since it allows you to go into Hudiemon at the start of your main by tucking a Erika underneath the Swarmmon and reducing the evolution into Hudie by 2, thus allowing you to keep turn and start the loop. Though for tech picks, we then pretty much complete the rookie trio with CS Figuremon and Hudie Tentomon as other tech options, with Kuru being another loop enabler with holding the generic CS regression inherent, while Hudie Tentomon here allows for archetypal digivolution reduction, thus making some more memory efficient plays. Though these two are excluded, since they don't really help too much, barring their, colleagues' more effective plays for efficiency. And that's it for the rookie lineup. Now on to level 4s, in which case, starting off with the deck's highlight, that being Hudiemon as the main level 4 and boss monster, since she practically allows you to go pretty wide and allows for the loop that makes that wide board spam like crazy. Since, once again, she can go over your CS trait rookies for a cost of 4, or alternatively going over Erica following conditions, or being cheated out through the Ormon at a reduced cost, with her being a Lion's Body, which ends up being one of the main forms of damage for this deck, considering what else she does, as her on-play on Digivolve allows you to cheat out a cost 5 or lower CS trait from hand while paying the cost, and hits a opposing Digimon with DP reduction depending on how many Hudie Digimon you have on board. With that being triggered again due to the one attacking, allowing you to bounce one of your own tamers back to hand to then trigger it off again. Which, if you've already known the deck's, given the deck's notoriety rating, that ends up playing into the loop. And following that up for support, to back her up, we have the 4/4/4/3 ratio of Siegramon, Angemon, and Ankylomon. With Siegramon here being another line spot you could work with the alternate effect to draw one whenever it gets suspended. While Angemon and Ankylomon here are linchpins that you wouldn't work with since, since Angemon is a barrier body with the on-play on Digivolving effect to draw 1, while Ankylomon is a blocker body with the ability to hit opposing Digimon with a DP reduction, with both having the added clause to their effects to then allow you to DNA into Shikuamon, with both then granting stacks they see themselves in with barrier and blocker respectively. With this lineup allowing you to, be quite controlling with the DP reduction, or allowing you to draw further with Anja and Siegemon's effects. Though Angemon's more useful considering that between the two draw engines, it grants inheritable to the stack. So even if you regress through the CS rookie's effects, you at least get the barrier active on that body to protect it from battle. As for tech pick, you can make the excuse to add in BT23 Golemon, being a Alliance body and blocker with the alternate effect to, whenever it sees itself suspend, it's delete an opposing Digimon with 4000 EP or less. Though you can't really attack with it, you can't really attack your opponent's Digimon with him. But this allows you to make a bridge play for going into another tech pick later on for level 5s, to which we then segue to. As, for the most part, the main level 5, we're looking at a 4-2 split between the new BT23 Shikuamon and the BT16 Pyldramon as the only level 5s of this deck, with Hudiemon being able to be bridged into off of your Angemon and Kilomon effects. Though it ends up being the main linchpin as well to enable your loop, since you DNA using Hudie as the source for yellow, and then do it over Digimon and Kylo or Anja as the other DNA option, and thus you get its one Digivolving effect to taunt, and since you DNA'd, will then hit opposing Digimon with Digi1 with its all turns effect, allowing you to recur a piece back onto the board if it were ever to leave the field, also granting that as its inherent. Since, like I said, DNAing resets all inherits, thus allowing you to trigger off your generic CS inherits to regress Shakua as bomb source, thus making its inherent live once again, and Hudie is once again live and free to attack once more and start doing shenanigans again. While the addition of BT23 Pyalja is more so a bridging of colors for more aggression, since with Hudie on as the main, as your main source of body, going wide, you can make use of her colors and DNA using her and your Angemon or Siegemons to go into Pyalgemon through DNA. Thus, BT23 Pyalja will do Pyalja things with the mass suspension and ability to then swing in for multiple checks. Though, alternatively, you can also grab from BT23 the Dino Beamon to add in if you want the Golemon route, since you bridge in from Golemon and Siegemon to go into Dino B, thus giving you a raid buy to work with, and be able to go wide off of its revival effect. Since you DNA'd, it then gets to revive any level 5 free trait from trash, then grants any Digimon rush with the ability and then allowing them to attack. Which plays well if you add this into the mix, considering again, Pyldra is a free trait, Shakua is a free trait, and since she also has it, you can also revive out Hudiemon from trash, thus allowing you to trigger off her on play once again to also enable your combos. And that's it for level 5s. Now on to level 6s, in which case we only run the 2 copies of Venusmon, with her inclusion more so being a stopgap, considering that her on Digivolving hits all opposing Digimon present on board with security -1, with the opponent's turn effect to floodgate anything afflicted with a security attack effect to prevent them from attacking into her, or triggering off their when Digivolving effects, thus making it a good stopgap if you can't really finish the opponent off as you bridge into her through Shakua. Though alternatively, given the deck's coloring for its level 5 builds, obviously with Shakua, centering around Shakua, you could tech in Chubi Ace or Black Wargreymon Ace as your ace options for this deck. Chubi for further swarming by spawning out any level 5 or lower, 4 or lower, which is another Hudie on board already off of that effect, for further DP reduction on top of its own. Or you can go a bit more control-y with Black Wargreymon Ace, being able to come down and being able to snipe out a opposing Digimon or Tamer, and having itself become quite the big body, depending on what's on the opponent's side. And that's about it. And that pretty much rounds off the Digimon lineup for the deck. Now on to Tamers, in which case we're looking at 2 copies of Kisuke as the memory setter, 4 copies of Chitose, 2 copies of Erika, and 3 copies of Mirei. With this case, it goes without saying that Chitose ends up being your main tamer, since, well, before going into it, might as well start off with the player character himself, Kisuke. And as I previously stated, he is your memory setter for the deck, but allows you to do some other plays, since you have the alterns to also grant a plus 1000 global buff to all of your Hudie trait Digimon board. He also has the end of turn effect to spend himself down, and allows you to bounce one of your own Hudie trait Digimon back to hand, to then establish a CS trait tamer onto the board without paying the cost, thus allowing you to recur pieces that you have on board to then cheat out more tamers onto the board. And thus leading into the main man himself for this deck, Chitose, who ends up gaining you a single memory as long as you have a CS trait on board, with his on play allowing you to cheat out a level 4 Digimon, level cost 5, a cost 5 or lower Digimon with the Hudie trait from hand without paying the cost, with the alternates effect to hit opposing Digimon with DP reduction whenever he sees a of your Hudie trait Digimon suspend, with Chitose being the key linchpin of this deck, since Hudie will cheat him out, thus chaining into him chaining out another Hudie body onto board. Then you swing with Hudie, bounce Chitose back to hand, and you get to do it all over again as you play him back out once more. Then from there, Erika as another tamer from past memory game, as well as the effect to also recur your pieces as well. And if you manage to go into her through Wormmon, she then grants, through Wormmon or through Hudie's alternative Evo condition, she grants a blanket alliance to all Hudie trait Digimon on board. Excuse me. Thus adding another avenue of extra aggression. And then rounding it off, you have the 3 copies of Mirei as a means to, float into your other CS trainers, tamers if need be, as well as being a form of draw by pitching away 1 CS trait for a draw 2. Though alternatively, one tech pick may have in mind would be the final member of Hudie and its leader, Ryuji, considering that you also have another mem gain, but also reboot and blocker to your Digimon as it's on play, as well as allowing you to cheat your one color CS options. In response to seeing your Hudie trait Digimon suspending. Though that will be going into the other tech option for the next part, in which case, that being options, as we then segue to that. In which case, we're just looking at full utility, as the options for this deck are going to be full playset of Crummy Detective Agency and 1 HPD, with Crummy being Nicias archetypes mem boost, thus allowing you to dig for your pieces, as well as being a delayed memory for later, and HPD goes without saying to allow your evolution, well, to be memory efficient at the cost of spending down one of your own Digimon, which, given how the deck plays, isn't too much of a cost to ask for to ensure that you get your combo off, since once again, you have DNA plays to effectively gain back another swing. Alternatively, for tech picks, you have the full array of CS options that came with BT23 to help alongside it. Hudie Net Cafe, and then all the generic move options as well, with Ryuji being added to the mix, allowing you to make efficient plays by allowing you to use these options without needing to pay their cost, since they're all single color. And that's it for the deck lineup. Now on to combos. And then starting off with the mulligan hand, we're definitely looking at a situation where we'd want to set up a whole lot. In this case, ideally seeing a CS BT22 CS rookie to be established in the back. Ideally between the two, Hudiemon, for you to go into tamer plays later on. Gatsumon to be played out for search. And then Mirai and Kurumi to also help with your cycling and piece digging. As for the most part, you're pretty much wanting to then be able to see all of your pieces come into play. Either setting up Keisuke or Erika for later, or establishing Chichose or seeing Chichose in hand for your eventual Hudie plays. Since again, Hudie will then allow you to cheat out, with the one who enables the loop most obviously being Chichose, since he'll then allow you to go into your other Hudie level 4s for free, establishing them on the board. And then from there, Hudie will then swing, bounce Chichose, and do it all over again. With the main idea being to then DNA into Shikua, and then reestablishing Hudie through regression, and doing the whole loop all over again from there, constantly DNAing and resetting the loop. With alternatively Pyodramon being extra aggression piece, and Venusmon being a means as a stopgap if you're choosing to keep the Shikua on board without regressing to end the loop. And now on to combos. And going into the next combo, it's pretty straightforward, as it's one whole singular idea of a combo. Since going into your turn, you pretty much want to either somehow find yourself, ideally seeing yourself to for memory, or at least have your play start with Hudie on board without needing to pass turn. So in this case, from a more bare bones perspective, either Erika or Chitose plus Kurumi Detective Agency to establish on board for potential for, or any combination involving Kyosuke and the other tamers, or Detective Agency and the such, just to ensure that you keep turn to go into your plays, since it's pretty much straightforward of bringing out Terrier or a stack with a CS, your BT23 CS rookies live, and it's a matter of either climbing the stack in one way or another, since from here, from the beginning combo, you can create a stack with Angemon as the top, and then being regressed down for the draw 1, and then having barrier live for it, thus allowing your Hudie play to also be sticky, since Hudie will then be protected with barrier. Since Hudie comes down for the full cost over the CS, trigger off, and start cheating out any level 4 or lower. In most cases, you're pretty much cheating out your Chitose, who then comes into play, triggers off, and will then cheat out either Angemon, Seedramon, or Ankylomon from hand off of the effect, depending on what you need or what's available to you. As from here, you have a whole host of effects, whole host of routes to go by, depending on board state and the such, since Hudie will swing, trigger her effect, bounce Chitose, and then reestablish Chitose, thus getting more bodies onto the board. And with that, any of the bodies on board will then be able to alliance with her, and ensuring that Hudie survives, you pretty much have a number of effects to work off of. Granted, Killsuke for the ability to grant all Hudie Digimon on board an extra 1000 DP, and in the case previously mentioned, having that stack run barrier before so to ensure that you survive any battles that come your way that you can't really beat. Since from this situation, we're looking at 2 suspended Digimon on board. Well, at least 3 Digimon on board, 2 of them suspended due to the alliance. And this is where you then make your plays, going into Shakua with Hudie at the top, and either Ankylomon or Angemon as the bomb source, or Seedramon as bomb sources of that DNA, for then a Shakuamon, who will then taunt, which isn't necessary, since you will already reset your BT23 CS. Rookie Inherit is once again live, and then you grant the Shakua as bottom source, and thus Hudie is now once again live for attacks. And you just swing in all around and constantly looping Chitose and chaining out with a much increasingly wide board, and then depending on resources we'll then proceed to continue looping your Shakuas as they come to then constantly reset Hudiemon for her effect, and it's just beating down the opponent, wheeling them away 2 checks at a time thanks to Hudie's alliance, as it's a matter of reseeing your resources to ensure that you end game. Now, alternatively, if you can't really end game and see your pieces out, since once again the deck has alternative avenues of aggression with climbing with Pyloja, or if you can't really end games, going into Venusmon off of a Shakuamon to ensure that you give yourself breathing room to end them next turn. As, once again, this deck's main game plan is all about establishing the loop with Hudiemon, constantly able to bounce and then reestablish Jose, will then allow you to create a wide board through storing all of the Hudies, well, all of your Hudie level 4s onto the board, and making them valid alliance targets for Hudie to alliance with, and swing in 2 checks at a time. and then once again loop back with the Shikua, and then looping with the BT22 CS rookies to then recent Hudie, as it becomes a never-ending loop of swings using Hudie as the main enabler, and thus has led this deck to become such a tier 1 threat in the meta. And pretty straightforward at that, despite its pretty asking price tag. But overall, that has been my look at Hudie CS for the BT23 format. As we then transition to BT24 with the Times Changer, and the other decks that set supports. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this around to keep up as we go into the BT24 format. And this is Cyberdraw, signing off.